I want you to just talk about that moment when you made a commitment to live a life of Kingian nonviolence.
Yes, I do remember that period, that incident very vividly, as well as some others. I actually have a different kind of history in terms of focusing on those people who were very violent and trying to transform them and figuring out a way to do that. One of the things that helped me to do that is because I was going through that transformation myself at an earlier period. I was sharing with Gladys over dinner that I used to be a gang leader in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And our gang was never defeated, even though we fought with the Girard Avenue gang, okay, which was a larger gang. And I don't talk too much about the details because I don't know the statute of limitations. But we focused mainly on booby traps. That means that your opponent actually defeats himself. That's what booby traps do. You don't have to put your hands on them. You lead them in the wrong direction if they're trying to harm you. And so that was our strategy. So I had two reasons to get involved in the movement. One was I wanted to see social change, and I wanted my older relatives to experience that before they died, because they had lived all their lives being dehumanized and degraded and discriminated against. So it wasn't for my grandchildren, because I didn't want to wait that long. I wanted my grandparents to at least experience this before, they passed away. So I had an urgency and a passion for this change. So I got involved in the movement right off the bat. And but the second reason was because I wanted to see if I was capable of loving someone who hated me. I was testing my own transformation. I'd learned about the theory of nonviolence and all that, methodology, strategy. And by the way, a lot of people don't know that what they train people to do at West Point in terms of leadership and all the military strategy, many of those concepts can be transposed to nonviolence. And in our training, we help people go through that and learn how to do it. Some of our best trainers are people from the police force and military and gangs, because they already experience violence and they know that violence is bankrupt. Yes, if they tell the truth. Some of our greatest peace advocates are former military generals. Yes, they understand the value of peace because they understand, what war has done. So in this incident that we're talking about, this incident was one where we were desegregating the movie theaters. Because in Nashville, after we finished the lunch counters, we went to the restaurants. After the restaurants, we went to the movie theaters. And movie theaters, we went at night under the cover of darkness, okay? And we had little groups of 20 at each theater, and what they would do is simply go around in a circle and ask for tickets on the outside booth, and be denied, and just go to the end of the line and just keep going. So you didn't stop anybody else from getting in the line, okay? But you would simply do that. Well, on our way back from the demonstration, these young men who were characterized as hoodlums, we didn't call people names, but that was a character. They would follow behind us and pull people off the line and beat them while we were headed. So instead of turning our backs, what we did was walk backwards. So we would stay face to face with them. And this one night, they reached and pulled one of the fellows off the line, Solomon Gort, who was from Peoria, Illinois. I repeat these specifics so I can continue to remember, okay, because we're talking about over 50 years ago. And what do you do if somebody grabs another person? Nonviolence is proactive. The mistake that people make in trying to describe nonviolence is that you allow someone to do something to you and you do nothing. That is an error. You don't behave the way they behave, but you do take action, okay? Action that can change the situation rather than stimulate or emulate the same behavior. So it's much more powerful because the goal is to arrest the conscience of your assailant, and rather than stimulating your assailant, stimulus response, in psychology. So what I did was to place my body over his body, and that's in a sense of sharing the suffering. What you can do in a proactive way is not simply to sympathize with the victims, but to empathize, become a part of the suffering, and that's what you call sharing in the suffering. Now, I had some moments when I was very upset when people were attacked, and the thing that really got me most of all, I can remember the feeling right now, is when they struck a match and put it to the hair of the young lady sitting next to me. Okay, chauvinism, you can call it whatever you want, okay? Now, the young ladies, I'll tell you this, involved in the movement, you know what they say? I'm here like you, and I have to take my suffering too. So don't interfere with my suffering. Okay? Yes, those are kind of people that Gloria, okay, Johnson, okay, was like. So we were standing together in unity with these women. And that was a thing that transformed us as young men. We saw the women willing to take on the same suffering, the same burden that we did. There was no coincidence that Diane Nash, okay, Bevel, was the leader of our group. We chose her. You can appreciate this because we decided we weren't going to have, this movement was too important for us to be arguing among ourselves as who's going to be the leader and which fraternity brother was going to lead it. This was too important. So we set our egos aside, and there were some young ministers in the group, and how some young preachers are. At least I do, because I'm one of them. No, this was not, okay, any place for that. We had to get the very best person. Why did we choose Diane? Not because she was a woman. That's not the reason we chose her. She was easy on the eye, but that was not the reason we chose her. Okay? The main reason, she was an English major, so she can speak, okay, be a spokesman for us without splitting some verbs and embarrassing us. I'm giving it to you now. It's not in the books. Not yet, but it will be soon. It soon will be in the book. The reason we chose her was because she was a consensus builder. She knew how to listen to many different points of view, like Martin Luther King, and then bring them all together. You can make a statement and she can come behind you and so articulate, you say, well, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Okay? That's what we wanted. That's what we were looking for. A person who had those skills. And that's why she was selected, to be the spokesman for the group. And she was not just a spokesperson, but she also was the chairman of our group and the leader of the Nashville movement. And she went on to do other things, but I'll stop with that. But yes, it was a struggle for me because I had to overcome a lot of things. But you know what I found out? I found out that love is actually stronger than hate. I found that it's more powerful because hate can only create more hate and more violence, and you can be hateful and cause a person to fear you, okay? But you can't transform people with hate. And that's what we were. We were trying to transform people so we can increase our forces. And that's the power of nonviolence. And I can give you many examples, but yes, when you can really give up yourself. In other words, somehow you've got to be willing to lose. Like going to jail means losing your freedom. But you've got to be willing to lose in order to gain. And when we were in jail, and I've been in 27 times, different places, you know, I always tried to avoid jail and went 27 times, you know. Think about those who were trying to go. But I found out that that's when you're really free, when you overcome fear itself. That's when you're free. And I found that was so powerful. I discovered that. Oh, I've been reading the New Testament and all that kind of business all my life, you know, little child reading up. But can you love someone who's going to spit on you? Someone who will kick you in the face and call you a dirty name? How are you going to love that person? I found a way. And that became so powerful until it was over. Because I knew what love could do.